Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me this week, as always, it's my own member of the Witness Protection Program. I say that because his face is going to be pretty fuzzy this episode. He's joining us from internet in a secret location in the middle of the woods where the FBI has him holed up. He ratted out a local mob boss. It's Tom. How you doing, Tom?
Hello, friends from the dead space of the world.
Yes, indeed. You're connecting through like the moon right now on your internet. It's going to be ridiculous. If it's bad, don't worry. We'll make him turn off his camera, and that should fix it. But for a moment, we're going to see what we can do.
And I will likely disappear at some point during this show.
So we're going to keep this
Just
to a
move on
short
without
one.
me.
Yes, we're going to keep this to a shorter episode. But that's okay. Tonight, we're going to talk Stormcast. And to do that, we've brought a Stormcast expert. First time on the show, and we're excited. It's Chuck Moore. That's right. You're an expert now. You got to wear that title. How you doing, Chuck?
Oh, boy. I'm doing great. How you doing, guys?
It is great to have you on, sir. We are wonderful. So, Chuck, you should absolutely, by the way, in our pick of the week section as a bonus, I'm going to steal it from him. He's not even going to be allowed to mention it. Okay, I'm going to take it from him. Chuck runs an excellent blog. It'll be linked down below. You should go check it out. So there you go. See, I'm pimping for you. That way you don't have to feel bad about it. That's the idea.
You're throwing all these words to make me seem greater than I am. I'm worried now. I have to live up to it.
I like to make sure that our guests perform at a higher level than us. That's really the goal. They have to drag us up. Our average performance needs to be elevated by our guests. That's why I try to get good people. So, let's before we get into that, of course, we're going to start with the news as always. So, Fuzzy Face Tom, take it away. What's our news items this week?
So Warhammer Skirmish dropped this last weekend to somewhat mixed reviews. I don't know if you all have seen it. I picked up my copy. Vince, I know you picked up yours. Chuck, have you picked up your copy?
I have it right here.
All $10.
Ooh.
Mine's downstairs in the cabin. I'm not going downstairs.
Sure.
Product plug.
No,
Here we go.
Nice. No, it's been interesting to see people their responses to this. You know, with Vince and I having written a version of Mordheim for this, and then people being big on Hinterlands. It's been interesting to kind of track and follow to it, because they made a lot of very interesting decisions design wise in Skirmish, and for better or worse. So what have your thoughts been, the two of you?
I'll let Chuck go first. He's the guest. Chuck, what do you think?
Well, I like it. I like the simplicity. Good way to get some easy, quick games in, teach some newbies. It's very easy to carry two armies with you if you're traveling to a local FLGS. What I actually like is the developer of the Hinterlands has said he's going to now shift his focus to not create the skirmish game, but to add on to it. So add those features that I think it's missing: death of a character, injuries, bonuses, a little more in depth, more of a role play aspect to it. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to seeing with it. As a basic game, it's all right. I think it just could have used a little extra features.
No, I agree.
It's funny.
And Tom and I have been working on the same thing on adding that features to it. We may want to reach out to him and talk to Bottle. That might be a good idea.
Yes.
Just to I don't care. We can have two options out and do two different things. It's not a big deal. It's all good and fun. And who cares? None of us are making money off this. So more options isn't a bad thing, but still might be a good idea to probably better to just pick the guy and have a conversation. So, because we already have started putting together our rules toward much the same thing. We're
Nice.
Adding, multiplayer scenarios and injury, death, reward, expansion, all these sorts of things.
Experience.
Experience. Tom and I have sort of charted through a bunch of that and sketched out a lot of rules. Skills. Yep, sure. The whole real deal Holyfield. I agree.
Mordheim package.
Yes, sure. Here's what I'll say. I like that it's a much simpler framework, because I agree with the main point you said, Chuck, and that is that it's super perfect for new players, right? That is to say, it's the easiest on-ramp in the world. Here's 10 figs or 10 figs and we go, right? And it's simple to, low cost to buy, gets them into painting, gets them into the basic rules of the game. It is a beautiful little on-ramp. And that's very important. Not everything needs to be for everybody, right? And sometimes it's good to have beginner-focused products. So the hobby thrives off of having new blood get in. And if we don't make that easy, then nobody comes in and joins us. So
exactly. Plus new bundles with the little starter armies with what price range of $30 to $40. So usually getting a character for free, or you're paying for the character and getting a unit for free. So definitely a great addition to the bundle packaging.
Yeah, I agree. And as we said before, I absolutely want to see more of those. More skirmish starter bundles, please. I'd love to see like a round 2 of one more for each alliance. I think they could easily bang out one more for each Grand Alliance without too much trouble. And some of that stuff is just begging for repacks. Come on. You got a bunch of those elves sitting around. You're not doing anything with them. Like they're not selling right now. I promise. Okay. Just get them out, do something with them. So that's all I'm saying. All right. So what else we got, Tom? What's our other news?
So Warhammer Fest was this last weekend, and you'd be surprised. You'd think that Warhammer Fest would have something for Age of Sigmar, but it was decidedly light. There weren't really any miniature announcements. Most of that seemed to have been revealed at Adepticon. And even though Skirmish was releasing that weekend, like there were no Skirmish demo tables. Other things being demoed. There were not any AOS Shadespire tables being, there were no demos going on for any of that.
Well, I'm forced to think that, to be fair, right now, like we are on the eve of 40K.
40K hype. Yeah.
And like the hype train. Yeah. It's playing the train.
I understand. Yeah, like the 40K machine is in full like hype mode. And to their credit, like, man, I looked at that the unboxing today on the community website, and I was like, I mean, I could probably throw that on my shelf.
I'll win him over, folks. Don't worry. It's a matter of getting the armies and letting him see the new rules. We'll get him brought over to the dark side. I just like all I'm waiting on. Here's where this show is going to have a 40K component. You ready? Here's when this show embraces 40K and does occasional 40K shows. When the Sisters of Battle army releases. That's it. Like from that point, there is no turning back. I will hold Tom hostage at gunpoint until he buys an army. And then he's got to find something he likes. That'll be the answer. So there you go.
Well, I do have an army. I have Nurgle demons.
That's a good point.
Geez.
The reality
playing that game.
Yeah, like not only that, I have a bunch of Tzeentch demons too.
Well, I mean, by that regard, I have 2 full 40K armies as well. If that's how we're judging.
So
I'd say get used to paying for your summoning, but you're already used to that from Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, exactly. Oh.
Yeah, so the buy-in may not be as high as you think it is. So anyway, so I don't know. So I was looking at that, I was like, man, that's a good deal. Those are pretty nice minis, and I'm like, no, what are you thinking? Anyways, so yes, we are on the 40K hype.
Just Tom, hold on. The Eldar will probably get a release before your elves, so I'm just saying.
Oh no, don't do that.
Say that.
I need my high elves. I need them.
You're punching me in the gut. Anyways, agreed, Chuck. I need my high elves.
Yes.
So. It's funny because we really didn't have much come out from AOS from Warhammer Fest. Despite that, we had a correspondent on site at Warhammer Fest.
He did say it was okay to mention his name. So yes, Matthias Schaefer, who was there.
Yeah,
Matthias was talking to a bunch of people.
He did a Warhammer Weekly Europe signing out on the email. So I would assume that it's okay to mention his name.
I made sure to ask.
Yeah, so Matthias was intentional about asking questions and stuff like that, and then fed us all of his kind of the interview stuff that he did. And there's a lot of really interesting points. He had a long conversation, it seems, with Jervis Johnson, and just talked about like the funny rules and just some clarification on some of those things about like original intent versus kind of the developmental direction of the rules. the things that jumped out at me most from some of these conversations were that they're talking about like the idea of them having like multiple war scrolls with different rules. Jervis suggested that these were an oversight, and that the latest war scroll, which is is the up-to-date one, which is kind of the rule of thumb that they went by in the FAQ. But more importantly, he said that they're even talking about adding dates on the war scrolls so that like what version, like what is the newest kind of version. It would be interesting if they go through a sweeping kind of change and start dating war scrolls. That'll be interesting.
Or at least remove the old ones from the app.
Yeah, that might be helpful. We all know that points changes are coming with the GHB2. He did confirm that the GHB2, like, no more changes are happening. The layout's done. It's been sent to the printer. It's in production at the moment. So as we had kind of suspected, it's locked in.
Yes,
no
I
more
would just like to
changes.
point out exactly as I said, the schedule was on. Boom.
Yes. Yep. Seems like Jervis's forum of choice is TGA, for those that were curious. He suggested that when asked about Tomb Kings, he suggested that GW is going to have to create an entire product line where they would fit. Or we would most likely never see them as a regular AOS release, which would be interesting. But he said, however, he pointed out that GW is at the point where anything's possible. But he said we may see their return in 10 years in another product line. So I have no idea what that means.
I mean, it means he's hedging his bets in every way. No,
like who knows?
Look, GW with these two releases, they're like they're hitting like the Marvel level of like we can just do whatever, anything is possible. We'll make a movie about and have our closing shot be on a crying raccoon, and it'll be one of the most emotional scenes you've seen in forever, right? Like that's the level we're operating at here, to be fair, right? They're just knocking it constant home runs. Dingers. So I don't think they'll take anything off the table. If somebody comes in, I've said this, like, and we learned this at Adepticon. Yeah. Their artists and sculptors drive a lot of this process, right? And so not 100%, but a lot of it. And if there's some idea that brings it in that makes sense, they'll go down the road. It won't be like it was, right? It's not going to be just like we're reprinting Tomb King. It's not going to be that. In the same way that the like overlords weren't, the dwarves again, right? But there were echoes to that. Or fire slayers weren't slayers again, or whatever. Pick your thing. Okay. The same way elves probably won't be high elves again, both of you. Like it's going to be different crap.
Shut up. Yes, they will. Anyways, other things. So he spent some time talking with the designer of the AOS Skirmish system. I think this was maybe James Gallagher. And what jumped out here in this conversation was that that from a design standpoint, the concept of what Skirmish is for GW is to build an army up. So this really is an entry-level thing, and so they're aiming at people like painting a Skirmish warband and building up to the point where you have like 1,000-point force. Like that's the kind of idea that they're going for here.
Yep.
And the consequence of this is that they did not have an idea of like a small set of units that that and characters that became better or worse over time. So they weren't aiming to design a Mordheim-esque, kind of design developmental system. They want something where you're only ever building up towards larger armies. Like that was the design intent of Skirmish. Now, obviously, Vince and I have our heart set elsewhere in a more up and down style Mordheim, but so I just found it interesting.
Yeah, mainly on death, injury, suffering, loss, heartache.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mainly.
Because that's what happens. And so it's just interesting to get that kind of confirmation that this was a real intentional kind of design decision. As Jervis Johnson suggested that the points were largely based on the GHB1 using a super simple formula, and people obviously discern that. But some have, points have been manually adjusted for each mini to kind of better fit the Skirmish after testing. The designer of Skirmish suggested that the points in general lean towards the GHB2 values, but are still different. So we may see some points move towards that.
Well, and that's what's awesome is that answered the question we asked last week or 2 weeks ago, right? Of are these the new GHB2 points divided out by the formula, or were they adjusted because individual things were too powerful? And the answer is yes, a little of both, but it's more that they were adjusted because of their power level, right? So
yep.
There you go.
Yep.
Other
good.
No, I was just gonna say it makes sense. I actually rather like that because that means, the other thing was that Jervis said there is a massive amount of points changes coming. Right? That was his quote. Quote, massive amounts of points changes incoming, unquote. Okay.
Yeah, no, true. That's true.
So that right there tells you that these points probably aren't accurate just because if there's a massive amount of points changes coming, some of these aren't going to be these are clearly the GHB1 values then, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Nope. Agreed. Hey, we need to move on. Let's move through the rest of the news. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I want to get to the segment before I get kicked off the internet. They mentioned in the Miniature Painting Seminar that a new green is going to be out soon, the Death Guard green. We probably shouldn't be surprised by this with the new Death Guard being released.
Yeah, you'll have another sickly Nurgle green to work with, Tom. That'll be nice for you.
Yep. Yay! The 40k Nurgle Poxwalkers are not going to see an AOS adaptation with extra bits like the Zinch box. So for those that were suggesting that we may get like some Marauder bits, nope, that's not what's happening here. And the designers suggested that they're interested in doing something unique and new for AOS instead. And so it seems like, at least for some of the mortal kind of Rotbringer stuff, they want to go a little bit different direction. So I thought that was interesting. And then
I think the other really big piece of news was the thing about Forge World. And they just kind of confirmed that like Forge World writes their own AOS rules for their minis, and the points value is a collaboration. But the piece that I really liked is that they're interested in the idea of giving the Blood Bowl Steamroller AOS rules, although it's still to be determined. But that would be sweet. Yes, let's get that thing some AOS rules. Come on, get that thing on the table.
Let's start rolling. Have it like maybe, I could see them doing an alternate sculpt. Like how they have replaceable riders and stuff like that on like the Plague Toad. Like you can buy the little riders to ride on Plague Toad separate. I could see them like buy a dwarf separate for the Blood Bowl Steamroller, like have it be a Caradron or something like that.
Sure, that'd be sweet.
So, anyways, that's some sweet news. There's a new Mordheim mobile game coming that's going to be released for Android and on iOS called Mordheim Warband Skirmish. This is not the Mordheim City of the Damned game. It's a completely different company. They're live with all human factions only at the moment. The tabletop experience is possible. Other races like Skaven are going to be coming. No need to pay money. You can buy potions to heal permanent wounds suffered for your favorite hero. So it's going to be kind of a like in shop or in like app experience thing.
Sure.
So so that's coming for those that are wanting a more traditional Mordheim style experience.
Sure. So
obviously we had
2 Mordheim video games out. It's insane to think about.
Yes. People are hungry for the Mordheim. What else is new? We had a new pick of the day, which was basically nothing.
The rumor engine today. I'm not even going to show it. Chuck, did you see the rumor engine image today?
I did. I'm going to say what I always say. It's clearly elves.
Sure. Like it's everything at this point. This is the most. I refuse to show the image because that's more hype than that clickbait deserves. We came off of a great week the last week, and a couple good ones passed. To the corner of a cloak, a banner, a tattered piece of cloth, a piece of terrain.
They're straight trolling us.
Yeah, like
straight trolling.
That is nothing. You just showed us nothing. A hot pile of nothing.
The first thing I see in this image is the clear fingerprint of whoever molded it, where he bent that cape. I mean, that's a high res image of a lot of nothing.
It really is. Of the corner of a piece of assumingly cloth, probably cloth.
I mean, but if you look at I'm going to go into hyper analysis, but if you look at some of the cuts, it doesn't look like cloth. It looks like stone that has been chipped away. Now
Well,
that could
that's what
just
I
be
thought,
bad,
too.
like sculpting.
Sure.
But so it could be a corner of a statue, like the cloak of a statue, maybe.
Sure.
I don't know. Anyways.
Anyway, it's ridiculous to even theorize. I refuse to guess. I'm not playing your game this week, GW. Put out a better rumor engine image. That's garbage. That is hot Chinatown garbage. Don't pretend like it's not. The other big announcement, obviously, over this last week was we're getting 2 role-playing games from Cubicle 7. Right?
Yeah, like we had announced it last week. We said that the fantasy was coming and that there may be an OS. Well, we got confirmed this week that there is an OS. It's coming a year later in 2018, and interestingly enough, as Vince kind of predicted, it has a different rule set than the fantasy RPG, the Warhammer Fantasy RPG. So I don't know if they're going to aim at kind of that more heroic demigod status, or Anyways, Vince had talked about it last week.
Yeah, I believe so. They're doing exactly what I hoped, exactly what I said I would do, which is you write. Are you having a seizure right now? Hold your camera still.
Yes.
Sorry,
you were talking. I was readjusting my laptop.
Sure. The thing that they did exactly what I hoped. 2 completely separate rules engine, with the one focused on gritty, down and dirty sort of death in the streets in the old world feel, and the sword and sorcery feel. And this one, they are aiming at pure high fantasy, big high adventure, probably cruising around the mortal realms, jumping through portals, smashing up bad dudes with your big hammers. Yes, thumbs up. 2 completely different play experiences, 2 different creative agendas. Love it. They're both good. That's what I want to see. I'm all about it.
Yep. And then other news, events. We have a couple events coming shortly. This weekend in 2 days is NashCon. Vince and I will be there. We're going to throw down. Vince sent me his lists today.
Yeah,
and
I finally put them together today.
I don't anticipate that I'll be seeing Vince at the tournament.
Nope.
Unless our paths cross in the first round, probably not going to roll dice with him this weekend.
No, good, David. If you could just reserve a spot on that bottom table for me, that would be great. It'll be nice. I'll be able to set up shop. I'll be able to have all my sodas next to me. I won't have to move. I can just be in perma last place.
Just a nice lazy boy there.
Yeah, no pressure.
Vince, I'm going to spoil part of your list.
Go ahead. You can post the whole list. I don't care.
Vince is ballsy enough. He's bringing a Slaves to Darkness Allegiance army to the.
That's right. Real Slaves to Darkness Allegiance, Slaves to Darkness Declared Allegiance or whatever, and I'm using the Fate Sworn thing, so it's 10 units. So I had to fit 10 units into 2,000 points, right? So it's just it's an MSU build. That's all. That's what I'll say. There you go.
Do you at least have a war shrine in there?
Heck yeah, I've got a war shrine in there.
Okay, all right. You have a shot. You have a shot.
I brought out all the chariots, homie. Let me tell you what. When you got to fit 10 units in, you got to roll out all them chariots.
Oh. Anyways, yeah. So that happened.
Mm-hmm. Look, I'm bringing my other list has a Fate Master. If you want to get really into it, I'm rolling with a Fate Master General. The General is a Fate Master in the other one. That's how I'm showing up to this. I looked at that and I said, what models do I own that I like? That's what I'm taking. Period. Sorry, that's how I play. Yeah, no, it's true.
It's a way to do it, that's for sure.
Vince is clearly competing for the Hobby Award.
That's all I'm showing up for.
As some of you know, I had taken on the last-minute challenge last week of, should I add 40 models to my summoning pool? Yeah, sure, why not? So I started that project last Tuesday, and I'm proud to say that I have 40 models painted base. I have a little bit of glazing shading on about 14 of them, some fire effect inverse highlighting for my green fire. But other than that, like I'm good to go. Probably knock out most of that tonight. Maybe do some tomorrow, and then I'm gonna roll out with my 40 new models. So that's happening. Yep. So we're doing that this weekend. For those of you that will be there, we look forward to seeing you. I've had a couple of you reach out to me already, and it'll be cool. I'm looking forward to meet some of our fans. It's always a great time. We're in the following weekend. There is going to be there's a skirmish event in the UK that Ben Johnson posted on his Twitter. If you want to know about it, check it out. Ben Johnson posted the details this week, or just today, on his Twitter feed, of a skirmish event for the following weekend. And likewise, that same weekend is the Coalescence event for the global narrative event. I would encourage you all to be a part of that in your local regions.
Speaking of, Chuck, what's going on in your area for Coalescence there?
Well, I've managed to trick the local FLGS to get me some prize support. But no, actually, he's very excited. His GW rep was also on board with it. We're $350 worth of GW product I'm giving out. I printed little awards for all my events. I mean, the Coalescence guys, like, here's one of my awards. The Coalescence guys were great, giving out posters that were blank, so you could make your own, post them everywhere. And the area's been very receptive to it, even before I said I got prize support. So I'm looking at about 16 people right now. My club's been behind me, painting terrain, fixing up terrain. So we're really excited. We even have some people coming from Ohio, which I live an hour east of Pittsburgh. So it's a 3 to 4 hour drive for some of these people. Are coming out to play for a single day event and probably driving home that night. So we're really looking forward to it over here. And just, I'm excited to see how it goes, because if it goes great, then there'll be another one, and this can maybe be a yearly thing and maybe tie into bigger events.
Yeah, I agree. To me, I hope it ends up becoming sort of part of the larger narrative events that, like, GW runs. Like, I'd love to see a loose tie-in there in some way, right? Like, let's start that'd be great to see the community directing the broader narrative in some way. Doesn't have to be the whole way, some significant way, though. That'd be cool.
I've heard Ming, one of the Coalescence Neos and then the Realms at War guys, mention, he's hinted out on a few podcasts, so I'm hoping it might be true, that the results of this event will somehow be hinted at within the next couple campaign books coming out. So it's just a nice throw to the community to see what we're doing. Will it affect the main story? No, not at all, but it's nice to see that little support and ownership that now everyone can take in it, saying I was part of that. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Let me also mention, before we get too far into this, the Midwest Meltdown, July 14th to 16th in the Chicago area. That is also coming next month. They had 40 spots max, and I believe they still have some spots available.
Nice. Awesome. All right, so I think that's all our news, right?
Yep.
So let's move on to some pick of the week. So Chuck, what do you have that you would like to share with the audience?
Well, one of my friends and gaming buddies, Matt, turned me on to this guy, Uncle Adam from Tabletop Minions. I've been digesting his backlog for the past month or so, but his latest video he put out, why don't you just start? It's a bit of a rant, but I think in some ways that needs to be said to some people. You just pick up the brush, go grab the models, just start. Are you going to be great? Probably not. I mean, I look at my models I painted last year and I go, wow, that's terrible. Let alone the stuff I originally painted long ago. But it's nice and satisfying to see the progression, and you won't get that progression unless you just start. However you can, one model, a box of models, maybe hand-me-downs from a buddy. So that's my pick of the week. Uncle Adam's doing a great job of their very high-quality videos, and that's been one of my favorites he's put out lately.
I don't know, Uncle Adam.
I love that video.
He did a wonderful video back at Adepticon talking to professional painters about the advice that those professional painters would offer to the community.
There was a handsome man on there too with some glasses. Was that you, Vince?
If you had the word handsome, then absolutely not. There's a couple other guys with glasses. You must be thinking of them. But yes, that video is really great. I do like, not because I'm in it. I'm certainly dragging the whole thing down. But like, there are talented people in that video too, which is nice. And
there are real professionals in that video.
Yeah, exactly. Like, listen to them. You can just fast forward through my parts. YouTube can skip stuff really easy. So, but like Sam Lenz, which is Adam's buddy and a great guy, is in there. And obviously Sam does a bunch of the sort of pro painting stuff on Adam's channel as well. Jessica Rich is interviewed in there. Jessica's one of my absolute favorite painters. You can't see it, but my favorite piece she's ever done is like in that cabinet right there. And so, you know, like, he interviews a lot of great people who have been in the game for a while, and I think it's a super good one. And why don't you just start? And he talked about that as part of a broader series he's doing of like helping the true newbie to beginner to intermediate, right? Getting people over the hobby,
wherever they're at. What's that next step?
Yeah, but the hobby block, right? That often happens, especially when you're new. It can really happen where you just like, you don't feel like you're progressing. You don't know what the next step is to take because you're not really in it enough yet to just start experimenting and feel comfortable about what you're doing. So I love that video. I'm so glad you picked that out. That's a super good pick. I will absolutely link that below. Because I agree with everything Adam said in there. Just do it. Just paint. Just do it. Just shut up. Do it. All right.
Yep.
Tom, what do you got?
I'm going to pick 2 today.
What is this?
Because I'm that guy.
Mm-hmm.
The first is a post off of TGA from Raphael Maj. I saw his stuff on Facebook, and he's now posted it not only on the Facebook page but also on TGA. We'll link the TGA because it's easier to get to. And he has went through and done the service that all of us have expected or desired, which is went through and converted all of the points for all of the units that we don't have for Skirmish and put them on pretty pages with backgrounds that look like they're official.
Yep, they look real nice.
And then with they look real nice. And I'm just going to suggest that you all check them out and download them. I don't think they're going to disappear, but just in case they do. And it's only the stuff that's like that you kind of expect to show up. It looks like he did leave out some stuff that I might have included, but needless to say, it's worth checking out. It's a super helpful resource. That's the first one. The other one I want to promote today is, I've talked about him before on the show. I'm going to talk about him again. You're going to hear me keep talking about him. Landmine on Twitter, at Ministomp. He has a wonderful, he's a seller. You can buy from him at great prices. I order all my stuff from him now. But more importantly than that, right now he's running a contest. He runs these contests very regularly. And one of those contests is which skirmish warband would you choose? So, you sound off. Do you want, is it the Stormcast or the Iron Jaws or the Bloodborne or the Flesh Eater Courts? And they're gonna pick somebody in the next day or two, and just give away a skirmish starter pack, and he's gonna ship it out.
And the answer is obviously the Iron Jaws one. By the way, it is obviously the Iron Jaws one.
Yes, that is the right answer, which is what I chose. Yeah. And it just he just encourages you to retweet. That's all you have to do to enter. Retweet and say what you do. And so. Check it out. We'll have Ministomp's stuff, his link, his Twitter handle at Ministomp posted down below as well.
Not that it's that hard, at Ministomp, but yes, I will also put it down below. All right, so my pick. The other thing that happened this last weekend with Warhammer Fest, there was another sort of large event that happened as part of Warhammer Fest, and obviously that was the Golden Demon painting contest, one of the bigger ones in a long time, and the level of quality. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, absolutely. The level of quality at this one was mind-boggling because the way they restructured the categories, opened things up, just incredible. So the Michael Pisarski ended up winning with Tribute, which if you were at Adepticon, you saw in the Crystal Brush cabinets because it took second place overall. That was the Nagash piece. But I'm going to link the article from Figure Mentors with one of the Golden Demon winners, who wrote an article up for Figure Mentors about his experiences at Golden Demon. He's been somebody who's participated in them for a long time. And just kind of, it also links to all the pretty pictures from the events as well. So the stuff that was here this year was just shockingly, unbelievably good. So check that out. It's a worthwhile article. It's sort of, it's the ups and downs of his competition and his placement and what he thought of it overall. So there you go. We still await the return of Golden Demon here in the US. That can happen anytime now. Thank you very much. Okay. So with that being said, let's talk about some hobby time. So Chuck, what are you working on, man? You've been drilling terrain for a while. Has that come to an end? Have you finally been able to paint a model and not a rock?
It's over. My terrain building of my personal collection is done. The repair and painting of my club collection is done, thanks to my club Legionnaire Legion for authoring their support. So yes, I finally was able to get back to a model. And I've been dead set on Khorne, so obviously I painted a Stormcast model because I cannot get away from them, at least not till the elves come out. But it's up on my Twitter at Odiam, ODIAMH, a couple days ago. Nice little Knight Venator conversion. So outside of that, I'm painting the Adepticon alien figure as I travel for work a lot lately. I have Khorne staring at me and also some 40K sitting here on my desk, including the most loyal of Space Marines, Cypher. I'm just going to say that right now. So that's what I got going on. And also a upcoming project kind of inspired by you, Vince. I'm going to be doing a non-metallic metal, gold, I think is what you helped me settle on in one of your chats, of a Stormcast Eternals. So I don't expect it to be great, but it's more just to learn the techniques and try to improve myself. So that's what I got.
Well, what I'll say is that Stormcast are a great way to practice. Especially just base liberators are a great way to practice and learn NMM gold. Because they have very good, even expected shapes and things you can get the right highlights on. Like, what I mean is they have the right proportions, but they're not overtly detailed. Where you're trying to figure out complex light patterns and stuff of how it would reflect to make it look real. So yes, if you want to see NMM gold done on a superstar level, Aiden Daly, one of the heavy metal painters, who is at Ninja Aiden on Twitter. I'll link this just because it's so freaking amazing. He did his Robute Guilliman. Okay, so he did his all in NMM, and the gold is just, it's breathtaking. The entire figure is just breathtaking. So I highly recommend it. I'll link down to his Twitter so you can go back and look at his Robute Guilliman. And you have to say his name like that all the time. That's how it works. Okay, cool. Tom, what about you, buddy? What's your hobby time? You're doing these freaking 40 demons, right? Are those done?
Yep. Like I said, I'll either tonight or tomorrow. They'll be done.
Cool. Excellent.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'll have photos up. I'm going to post my TGA blog. I'm going to update it with this event. I'm going to try to take copious photos for battle reports. I'm going to actually try to get through all my battle reports this time, as opposed to last time where the last two events I'm like, I'm going to do this, and then I don't do it. So hey, it's going to get done. Skaven AZ, I'm going to do this. You'll have your full battle reports this time.
We don't believe you.
It's okay. I accept that.
Yeah. For myself, I'm working on this little guy who isn't going to show up at all. Look at that. He just looks like a nothing. He just looks like a little nothing on the screen. But specifically, I'm working on a piece for Gen Con for Rainbow Brush, and this is the base for it, which I was pretty excited about. This nice, had some fun playing around with a wasteland base, and this is going to have all sorts of fun effects. So, yeah, I'm really excited about this piece. I probably won't finish it before we go to Nashville, but hey, there's life. But there you go. That's what I've been working on. That and this a display board for my Zinch for NashCon. I hate display boards. They're the devil. They should go away. I don't like them. I don't like them one bit. That's what I think about that. Thank you very much. So, yeah, that's my feeling on that. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. So tonight I wanted to, I realized I look back, and when we we've had you scheduled for a while, Chuck, and I was looking back over, as I was thinking about what we wanted to do this week, I was kind of wanting to do a Stormcast, and then I knew you had plenty of experience with it, so that was good. And as I looked back, but I was like, I want to make sure we didn't do a bunch of Stormcast shows and that I would just be retreading ground. When I looked back on the history of the show, I was like, nope, we have talked about Stormcast like once. I was like, Jesus. Like, we've talked about orcs and goblins like 5 times. That should show you where our priorities are. Very quickly, to answer a question that came in the chat, how can I not like display boards when you build those mega bases? Because that's just it. A base is a story for a miniature. It's there. It's a contained thing. I don't even mind big ones. But display board gets too big. It's building terrain. It's a totally different ball game. And I don't like, it has to be by necessity empty-ish to a degree, right? Because it needs to have open space to put your miniatures. Like, there's all sorts of clever things you can do. But like with a base, it's on a miniature. I'm going to play. I'm going to feel useful about it. The display board is literally just like there for when I go to a tournament and I set it down and I set the minis on it and I go, for this hour of paint judging, here's your home where you get to live. When I do a good base, every time I walk in my office, I get to look at that base and be like, I'm so glad that miniature's on that base. That makes me happy. That display board's not doing that. I'm not setting them on their display board here just at home. I don't care enough. They have it. All right. Anyway. Sorry, I've got a real bugaboo about this. Okay, now back to the Stormcast. So I thought we'd do some winners and losers. And given that we got a shorter show tonight, Chuck's going to be running a lot of this show. So Chuck, yep, that's right, tuck in. So what we want to focus on here are some outliers, right? We know that the Stormcast overall are a pretty strong force. They've been contenders in a lot of major tournaments. There's been some busted battalions and formations that have come and gone over time. But what we want to focus on tonight are some of the individual stuff. We're going to talk a little battalions. And what we want to talk about is those winners and losers, those really goods and the things you never see. Okay? So, Chuck, we're going to throw it over to you, buddy. So we're going to go through this in a kind of ordered fashion, right? We're going to start out with some leaders and heroes. You can pick one, you can pick two, kind of whatever you want. But for you, what are your outliers? What are the really goods, the winners, and the really bads, the losers, in the sort of heroes character section of the Stormcast Eternals? And by the way, like Extremist Chamber and all that crap, whatever, I don't care. It's all
it's all Stormcast. It's
all Stormcast.
Honestly, for the winners, I mean, I think the most obvious winner is the Lord Relictor, because he's worth putting on the table now. Those prayers instantly made it a great, worthwhile model at 80 points. I have 2 now. I've never fielded 2, but I had the need whenever it turned good to just have an extra one around. My overall winner, and it's mostly just the way I play. I still play in a Warrior Brotherhood fashion. I haven't dived into the new Raptors too much, and the Paladors. So I still like the heavy force marching, dropping down from the skies type play style. But the Lord Castellant, mostly because of my future winner, which I'll get more into later, but Staunch Defender, he can keep a corner of the table held by himself, let alone if you give him the right units, he will hold whatever objective you want. So those are my big winners for the current Stormcast in the way I play. Obviously very opinionated.
No, I mean, that's what it's all about. I think you're right. Those prayers were such a game changer because that model is not very expensive. And those prayers, the fact that they're not dispellable, the fact that they go off quite easily, right? I think we talked a lot in the Corn Show about the power of the Slaughter Priest, who's just the dark version of that thing. I think this is much the same. I agree with you. Now,
and this dude is 20 points cheaper. He has an AoE damage or an AoE or he has like a ranged heal, ranged damage. It's so worth his points now.
Yep.
It's not even funny.
Not to mention, just the more things they keep putting in the hero phase, it is a very force multiplier, because the order of operations you take on how you do what, when, where can really create a new army for you just by this is how I'm going to play because I'm doing this order instead of this order with these models around.
I like it. Any other standouts for you in the winner category?
I mean, there's the obvious ones. Lord Stelson on Drakov is great as always. Now that the mounts can get, you know, Keen Claw, other fun things like that. But I think those get pretty obvious as you look through the book. You know the big guys. The buffs are always still there. So,
what's your feeling on the Aqualor?
I love the model. I want 10. I don't see myself fielding him anytime soon. I think he's good, but I think you'll be locked into that hit and run play style with the new Stormcast. It's called that. At least for half your force. So if you don't have those with him, he's really not worth anything to you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, I will say his ability, like his movement shenanigans, as we've talked about, you know, the power of movement, and his movement shenanigans are quite top notch, right? The fact that hero phase, he's just like, me and you, we're gone, now we're over here. And it's like, you know, he can drop 6 inches, which is always, you know, pretty decent, right? So that's a much easier charge than 9 if you want to take it. It makes setting up in tight spaces also a lot easier, right? Because it can be with the 9-inch bubble that, you know, a lot of like sort of pop-up things roll with. It allows a lot of it allows players to sort of hedge you out of areas. The difference between 6 inches and 9 inches on that bubble is a really big difference as far as setting up.
Yeah, it really is. Yep.
But yes, I agree. It does. He's very pinned to that play style, right? Like that is what he does, period, end of story. Like that's how you're rolling. But I do love, somebody in the comments just mentioned literally what I was about to say. Like, I do love him with 6 Paladors. Like, that's a hell of a punchy, sneaky unit. Like, no doubt about it. That is a tough thing to just counter because the way they can move around so ridiculously fast. Just be here now. Cool. Right. All right. No, I agree. I mean, like, I think the heroes is a strong suit for the Stormcast, certainly in the same way it's strong for Khorne, like we discussed last week. Yeah. Because you
generally have too many.
Right. Yeah. The problem is almost not having enough slots more than it is anything else, right? It's not like, oh, what do I use here? So let's talk about the losers. Who's the standout sucky? Can I
go ahead? I want to say that there's another standout. The Lord Celestin on foot, I think, is still a standout. Like, I think he's worth mentioning. That +1 to hit, it can trigger a number of the abilities, like the fishing for special abilities, on a number of units, both from battalion bonuses and also just kind of your base paladin units. And so, like, he's always worth mentioning, in my opinion, Lord Celestin. Like, just even on foot.
Yeah, the 9-inch bubble of his buff is pretty nice and easy to get multiple paladins in range if that's your thing.
Yep. So.
All right. So no, it's fine. That's a good catch. It's a good point. So who are our losers? I've got a couple in mind, but Chuck, I'm going to throw it over to you first. Who's your like of the heroes? What are the ones you've never wanted to put on the field ever?
Ever since the new book, my Night Vexilers have been sitting stranded, waving their banners, doing a whole lot of nothing.
I was waiting for him to come up. Yep.
Yes. I'm sure there's used to use the meteoric standard to do a little damage, but I think there's more worthwhile points out there. Also, the Lord Veritant. I'm not a fan. I think he looks okay. I'd rather take my Lord Relictor, get the prayers through there, and one of my other standouts that we'll get into is the spell shield. I actually prefer that over the mirror shield in a lot of cases. So I think there's other options than him to try and dispel, or heck, even just dealing with the spells as they come, because you're Stormcast, you're a baller. Just handle it, take it, and move forward and crush some face.
Yeah, just teleport over in any of your 10 ways and kill the wizard, right? Like, or shoot him dead.
Or shoot it off from the back table edge.
Yeah, like there was a sort of prediction that the Veritant would become popular with the rise of Tzeentch or whatever. I have not seen that. You literally picked both of the ones I was going to mention, by the way. Like, that's the 2 I was going to go for as well. I don't see these guys.
So let me jump in real quick. I think the Veritant has value because he is both a priest, and so I think that he is able to bring some of those magical lanterns to bear, like the reroll 6s to hit.
Yeah.
Bubble. And so if you're wanting somebody that's not your Castellant to run around with that lantern, he becomes a good option because he's a backfield. You know, he's not he's not out in the front ground with the Zeros. Is the Zeros the one with the?
He's a lantern with the wings. Yep.
The lantern with the wings. Yeah, and he's out in the front ground where you generally don't want that protective bubble. You want the bubble back in your bunker. And so the Veritant becomes an option for that. I've wrestled a lot with his points and looking at the possibilities in a couple Stormcast lists that I've built. I don't think that he is as useless as being suggested. What I'm surprised is how have the two of you not either talked about the Questor? Like, come on, people.
Because I've had a Knight Questor hold up multiple 20-man units in a choke point by himself. He's actually a little secret all-star for me. I love the guy, so I can't hate on him.
I don't know when this guy goes into a list. That's my problem. I look at him and I just don't know where he fits. Like, if I'm going to drop points on this dude, like, if I'm going to drop those points, I'm going to invest in something else. That's not a foot melee guy.
Right.
Like, that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, he's built to be a hero killer, but you might as well take the Knight Venator with the Luck Stone and just shoot it off turn one.
That's going to shoot him off, right?
Right, yeah. The Knight Questor, I've had him survive by playing line of sight shenanigans and just blocking a unit and just being smart with them. But it's you are right in a way. He's definitely not 100% fielded all the time or ever.
Like, because even his bonus damage fishing is off a wound, not off of hit. So he's not even synergizing with the rest of the Stormcasts for those fishing numbers.
I'll say about him. Here's what I'll say about him. I am openly and unashamedly biased when it comes to that guy because I love the model. I think it's a super sweet looking model, and I have a soft spot with him from the Silver Tower. Like, that's what it boils down to. Yeah.
Boo! That dude is junk. Get him out of here.
I agree with you. He is a hammer looking for a nail. Like, that is to say, he's just not. He doesn't fill a role you need out of your Stormcast.
He doesn't have a purpose
that you can't get in 10 other better places.
His purpose is Golden Demon, I think.
I think that's probably it. Yeah, seriously, he's like a great model for painting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yes.
He's not much else.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys that we're talking about are like, even if they're not total garbage, which I don't think any of them are truly garbage. Okay, like I'm sure they can all have uses. They're functional. But the problem is they all fall to like 9th pick. You know what I mean? Like, you just never have enough heroes that this would be the guy you would choose over everything else, above it, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. And there's just such a fat mid-range on there between, people we haven't mentioned. We just have briefly mentioned, like the Zeros and the Venator for his assassination abilities, or your Star Drake hero, or just whatever, right? All this nonsense. It's just falling out everywhere. Okay. So, good stuff. I like that. Let's move on to the bulk of the force itself, the Stormcast units. Right? So the foot troops themselves. Who are our winners? Who are our losers? Chuck, let's what do you got?
Hey, you're going to start seeing how I truly play very defensively this army, because my winners are the Liberators with Shield. I take as many of these guys as I can, and the only reason is because I love running my Lord Castellant, and I love running Staunch Defender. Putting those guys in cover on an objective, and then putting a lantern on the one up front. I mean, 2 up rolling ones all day. I'll take it all day. They are my favorite as far as the basic unit goes. I know I could have went Paladins. I could have went any number of things, but those guys get the work done when I need them to.
I mean, you're not wrong that they can, like, for their points cost, you can turn them into a shockingly effective anvil, right? I mean, I wouldn't expect them to move other people off objectives very often. That's not what they're there for. But like, as far as just surviving, you're right. Like, within the tricks that the Stormcast can quite easily do, you can get those guys to just be very, very, very hard to move, right?
And not only that, like, I'm going to jump into this later with battalions, but I think that they really are, people like trash talk them a lot, but I think they really are like a secret weapon in the Stormcast force. Like, if I put it this way, if I ran a Stormcast list, I would have a block of 20 of these guys.
Sure.
But I'll talk about that later. Yeah, like I am all for a Liberator block.
Yeah, well, I think we'll come to them when we come to our battalion discussion. As to somebody asked the question of why Stormcast right now, has something changed? No, it's just I think we've all had a lot of time to actually think about them, right? And we've seen multiples of the releases. We've got to see them in play, and I realized we had Chuck and we hadn't done a Stormcast show in like a year. So we've there've been multiple releases, and it's good to catch up with them. All right, so I mean there are other obvious mentions, right, that are here. Like clearly. Clearly Retributors are pretty good. I don't think I'm breaking any secrets there. But are there what other if you had to pick a few other hot standouts, what else have you enjoyed? Like, have you gotten to play with the with like the Raptors or anything yet? With the long strikes?
So I have some long strikes. Actually, they've disappointed me, mostly because my poor dice rolling. But they don't kill much for me. But the issue I keep running into is 3 doesn't seem to be enough, and 6 is too many for the points. But maybe in a battalion it could work. I am a fan of the Vanguard, the Paladors, though. I definitely need to get myself some of those. I think those are a clear standout, good movement. And very nice hit and run. They can fit into the style I play quite easily, or the very movement shenanigan way as well. So they're definitely the new kids on the block.
Yeah, I agree. They just have a really. What I like about the Paladors is, I don't know that there's anything I look at them and go, they're horribly skewed to that. They're certainly slightly skewed toward movement shenanigans, obviously, as we've discussed. But I don't feel like they're so overwhelmingly skewed in that direction that they become worthless in every other way. Say like your Seekers of Slanesh or something, right? Where they can move like 42 inches across the board a turn, but who gives a crap? It doesn't mean anything, right? Like they just show up and do nothing. These guys are very mobile, but they're tough enough, they're effective enough, they hit hard enough, right? Are they the hardest hitting thing? No, but they hit hard enough, right? Especially when combined with their movement shenanigans. Are they the most defensive thing? No, but they're defensive enough, being that they can usually pick their fights, right? So that they can put themselves on the right footing. So yeah, the Paladors are a real standout to me. Also, just slight aside, stupidly awesome looking models, right?
Oh yeah.
Like that's part of this. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Like the greatest model in the world, or the greatest rules in the world, if it's on a hot just piece of trash, I'm not super excited about putting it on the table. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but yeah, I'm less inspired. There we go. All right. So any other winners, Tom, that jump out to you we didn't mention?
Protectors. I know that people just in general, they're like Paladins, Retributors, yay!
Sure.
But there's like, man, they are swinging around some balls.
Mm-hmm.
I'm serious, because they have the Star Soul Maces. Okay, so they have the auto mortal wounds. Awesome. They also give penalties to hit for units behind them in our very, very, very ranged, heavy meta right now. So you could stretch out a line and actually give penalties to hit the units behind you.
Right. Yeah. Did they get better? Did they get better because of the current meta having a lot more shooting, KO, Skyfires, blah, blah. Like, did that penalty to shooting just suddenly become much more valuable? I would argue, I think Protectors got way better in the past couple of months without any changes.
Like Protectors, a block of Fulminators supporting them are going to suddenly hit one of those units of, the Fulminators hit with their crossbows or whatever. and then suddenly like everybody's at -2. Is it the fulminators that have the -2 crossbows? Am I?
The fulminators?
Or is that the concussors? No, the concussors
fulminators are the. No, the fulminators are or the tempesters. Are you talking about the gun-based Dracoth riders?
The ones that get that give the enemy -1 to hit. They shoot somebody and give them -1 to hit.
The tempesters are the shoot somebody disruptive fire.
Yes. Yeah, like so tempesters with a line of these are going to give -2 to those Kunnenruck, and that block's never going to hit anything. Like they can't mathematically hit anything.
Yeah, but look at the shooting out there with the protectors. They're 4 up. You get 1 rend.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they start dropping like flies. That's a problem I have with them. Honestly, with protectors, retributors, decimators, sounds odd, but I send them in and I plan for them to die every single game.
Sure.
They have their uses, and I love protectors.
And I'm not saying they're not. Yeah, what I'd say is that they have a new use now. Is what I would push back on. Is that like these guys, in addition to the auto mortal woundsing thing, is they also can provide cover for their allies for penalties to hit, and they're anti-monster. And so that because they're also the ones that have the exploding wounds on monsters.
Right. It is hard to get them with a monster sometimes with 4-inch movement, unless you're trying to drop from the sky and get a lucky charge off. Could be challenged with it. But I still like them. There's still uses, but at the same time, if I have anything like I said, shooting with Rend, I'm not going to shoot at what's behind the thing with Star Soul Maces. I'm going to shoot the Star Soul Maces.
Which is great. Like, and I'm okay with using units to distract. What I'm saying is it is an extremely valuable unit for a variety of reasons. And now it has a number of specialized purposes. You know, if that is only to draw fire for a round or two.
Sure.
Yeah, and so what I would say is that I think that of the Paladin units, I don't see them talked about as much. Because to me, they're probably the most valuable Paladin unit.
Well, I will say our good friend Relian just assembled he just twittered out a photo of 40 protectors or something. So he's really on this train. Yeah, just a tray of them prime gold.
Yes, and I trust Relian's similar math hammering mind. He clearly also sees that utility.
Yeah, definitely. Don't take my opinion. Not over Relian's. Not for any sort of strategic levels of insight here.
All right, so I think we've got some interesting winners about. So let's talk about the losers. Who are the units that you don't see? What are the big whiffs?
So prosecutors with celestial hammers. Why are they 100 points, and why are they less useful from their cousins with the javelins that are 80 points and far more useful?
And better.
Yeah. No, I have 6 because I have 2 starter sets, but outside of that, I bought 6 with the javelins. I was given it as a gift, but yeah, I think they could have had something maybe added, maybe a battalion to make it more useful, but the battalions just take prosecutors, and I'm never going to take the celestial hammers unless I need to field a lot of them, and then that's all I have model-wise.
Yeah, I have 18 of them, but 50 and 15 are modeled with the hammers. So there you go. How about that? That seems like, in retrospect, unfortunate. But yeah, I'm down with that choice. I agree. It just they make me sad. That's what I'll say, because I agree with your complete appraisal. I look at the 2 of them, and I'm like, nah, it's going to be the javelin. It's going to be the javelin
every time. Every time.
In a similar way, and I think that's what we'll see. To me, a lot of the losers of the Stormcast are just the alternate builds that are clearly inferior to their different weapon wielding brothers, right? Where the other weapon is clearly better. So we've talked about protectors and we mentioned retributors. To me, decimators fall into that loser category, right? The axe swingers that hit the stuff within range.
I don't know.
It never works out in your favor. You know what I mean? And moreover, when it does, it's not the stuff you want to be using that unit to kill anyways, right?
Yeah.
You want to be busting up something that's actually in the way, not not a random horde of tiny guys on 25 mil bases. You happen to be able to, get a lot within your reach.
Mm-hmm.
I just find the decimators completely underwhelming. I had a good buddy who alternates between Stormcast and Bloodbound, and he was really stuck on the decimators and trying to make them work for a while. And he was like, because that's the type of person he is, where he likes to pick the thing that he perceives as sucky and try to force it. And they just sucked every single time. And finally he ended up on the Retributors. Like, he just was like, all right, I give up. So, yeah.
So the decimators do have a use. Take their axes and you can create and convert some very nice Star Soul Maces for your starter set Retributors. So that's the best use I've found for those axes.
That is a really good call. Yeah, you can just chop off all little bits and build. It's like a do-it-yourself Star Soul Mace. Yes, I like
exactly.
Yeah, good call.
Nice.
I love it.
Nice.
That's awesome. Any other particular losers we want to hit on? Tom, did you have any favorites out of the list we haven't mentioned yet?
I'm gonna call them on it. Vanguard Hunters. What? GW?
The actual hunters. Really, you don't like them?
Like the on foot guys with cloaks.
The on foot guys. Yeah.
Show me one competitive list that is running around with these guys. Like, there are 140 points for 5 dudes. Like, you're paying 40% more than 5 libs as your battle line. And for what? Like, I know the mobility thing. I'm not buying it. Like, if I want the mobility, I'm gonna run Paladors probably.
Not even with some of the battalions, which I guess we will be getting into. But would you,
like,
if you had to,
like? No, that's the problem. Like, I look at those and I'm like, oop, I have to field hunters. Nope, not interested in those battalions because those are point sinks. Like, when you start adding up the points and trying to fit things in, I hit those and those are so inefficient. What they're supposed to be doing, because they're not doing any of the things that I want them to be doing well, and that's the problem.
All right.
Because they're this middle unit that it isn't specialized. Like all of Stormcast, if you look at the base design of Stormcast, is that it's really centered around, like, every Stormcast has been designed by Sigmar for a purpose. It's a tool in a toolbox. And every single Stormcast has a specialized purpose that when it's deployed in that environment, it excels. And the problem is that I don't see the environment that these guys are doing, like that these guys are performing in, that other things aren't performing in better spaces for. I don't know. I mean, hey, audience, if you guys feel strongly about this, I'd love to hear the arguments in the comments. But man, those hunters, like yes, they can run and shoot with their 9-inch crossbows, but I don't know.
I'm going to say I disagree with you on this one. I actually quite like these guys. I think their mobility.
Vince, you like bad things.
That's a fair point, as we've proven. But I think their mobility, I think their use in some of the battalions, I think their combination with the Aquilor, I think their ability to set up 7 inches away with their own compass on their own, I think does make them an interesting choice. Would I put them in the winner category? No. But I don't think they're in the loser category either. I think they're a perfectly respectable mid-tier choice. I really do. And I think they've got some pretty good uses. But that is just my own humble opinion. All of this is just our own humble opinion. You like whatever you like. That's what, of course, as I always say anytime we do these reviews, if it's working for you, then it's the right thing to play. That's who the hell.
But why would you just lightning strike libs? I know he has 6 inches. Yeah, I get 3 more inches closer, but I don't know. Alpha strike, there are better tools to alpha strike. That's what I would say. But these guys aren't even hitting hard. Like, so why are you trying to set up close to? They're like, what are they going to do? Shoot a bunch of crossbow bolts at 3 up, 4 up, no rend?
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Let me show you my my adjudicators over here that can do that without accidentally getting into combat.
I mean, sure.
Sure.
I don't. I mean,
from across the table.
You're not wrong.
It's insane.
Like the fact that I
Yeah.
can put them down, assassinate something if I've got a big enough unit of them, like assassinate a soft target, like a squishy wizard that might be hidden behind a building that my adjudicators can't get at, but the other guys who are dropping 7 inches away can. And then my Aqualor from 24 inches can literally just pull them out and reposition them.
I don't know.
I think
like if the Aqualor is a fail, these guys are a fail. Because if you're locked into the Aqualor, we talked about this. Like it's way too specialized. The Aqualor
I didn't say
is too
that. That wasn't a
specialized.
hit on him. I said that wasn't like, yes, he's specialized. I didn't say he was bad. I think he's good. I said the downside was it locks you into a way of play. I agree. But if you're playing that way, then do that. He's good at that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced on the Vanguard. I think the Vanguard hunters. I think the investment's too much.
All right. Well, let's use
anyways,
this to move to those battalions. Let's talk about those battalions. All right. So, Chuck, what are your winners and losers in the battalion section?
The immediate winner is the Hammer Strike Force because it's the baby brotherhood now. I think we all know how it plays. So I want to go outside of that because I think that's the obvious one. That's what I love playing. So I really like the Vanguard Wing and second, close second, the Thunderhead Brotherhood. I failed every time with the Thunderhead Brotherhood, but I like the concept. It's fluffy while still giving me good tactics to using it in the game. So I think those are the winners, and you can make them work. It'd probably take a smarter mind than me. That's why I just take the Hammer Strike Force and just drop down, move forward, and Star Soul Mace you. But I like their concepts, and I think they could be done very well in certain armies.
Man,
so Tom, clearly you've got
that Vanguard Wing. Shit.
Let's
like that Vanguard Wing. Yeah, I have already built out what my Vanguard Wing looks like. And by the way, this is in preparation for them potentially nerfing Sail. in my current my Nurgle list, because the Vanguard Wing does almost everything that my does, only I can do it better and have harder hitting units. So I can take control of 75% of the board turn 1, no questions asked, with a huge block of 20 libs that are at 2 up, reroll 1s. Just asinine. Yeah, it is ridiculous. Battle Shock immune, all of the toys. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, if you want, it's easy to dip into Tempest Lords. Because the Vanguard Wing, you just need 4 units of prosecutors, which that's actually a boon for you, because that means that it's harder to eliminate the prosecutors that can teleport your lib block around. And so what this means, because you have 4 units instead of the base 3, and then on top of that, all of your liberators are getting a free 2d6 charge move. Are getting a 2d6 charge move every turn from that command trait. Oh, and this makes it so that you're a 1-drop army. You're a Vanguard Wing 1-drop army, because the Vanguard Wing plus any number of additional Stormcast units.
Not to mention, take your Lord Relictor, Lightning Chariot, those prosecutors across that board, and you're getting corner to corner if you really want to with some of this.
Yeah, you could easily get corner. You could truly surround the enemy turn 1, because you could teleport them with that Vanguard Wing into combat. So you could pin wherever, if the starter army starts in a block, you could pin them in with your block of libs top of turn 1. That's a thing. With all of your buffs up. And then they have to fight through everything just to try to get to an objective, which will take 2 to 3 turns bare mins. Man, that Vanguard Wing, people have not exploited that shit enough. Wing with the Tempest Lords. It is so competitively strong.
Add my favorite into it. If you can take a second Relictor, Lightning Strike over a Lord Castellan, give them that buff, Staunch Defender. You're not getting out of that corner, especially if you bring a block of 20, unless you have a lot of mortal wounds and can lure some bravery. It can be very nice.
Yep. Yeah, so
that was actually going to be my favorite pick. I do love it as well. It's like to me, I agree. Like I totally agree on the Hammer Strike. We all know Hammer Strike's awesome. It doesn't even really deserve discussion, only because it is really like the obvious hammer. It's great. Again, it's not me in any way bagging on it. It's brutal. It is a brutalization. But I agree. I love the Vanguard. Really does do some cool stuff. I love the way it plays. I think it plays unexpectedly, right? In that shock mobility. All right, so
the only thing I wish.
Go ahead, Tom.
I would say the only thing I wish, and it would just be obviously cheater and breaking this, is if I could get another block of libs in that battalion, like that that can also teleport. So if you had 2 blocks of 20 libs without having to take the battalion a second time, like because I've done the math trying to do like 2 Vanguard wings, and it's like it's too tight to do that because you lose the actual ability to have like a hammer that you could drop if you need one. Right. So you really do need the rest of those points to not run a Vanguard wing, a second Vanguard wing. So it'd be neat if you could fit a second thing, but obviously that's not written that way. So boo-hoo.
Boo-hoo. So let's talk about the losers. What are the ones we hate? Like let's give one we hate. What's the Chuck for you? What is your absolute loser?
So I'm going to be this guy on this. I don't have a specific battalion I hate. While they're fluffy and I think they're a very cool addition, the Chambers, I think they're a weird points tax. And every time I've tried to squeeze one into a list, I'm like, why don't I just take this or this or this? I don't think their extra rules are worth it, really, just to squeeze in an extra unit here just to get that extra ability. That's my loser. I think they made the tax too high by changing so much in certain formations you need to take.
Yeah, the Chambers are just so terrible.
Yeah, like, and it's a great point. I think honestly, Chuck, I think that's the best point of discussion rather than an individual battalion. Were the Chambers the real whiff of this book? Given that, like, the nature of the Stormcast, the nature of the Chambers, echoing sort of chapters of Space Marine world and stuff. The thing that everybody loves, like people get super attached to their chapters, love that stuff, want that stuff. And they had an opportunity to open that door here and they just banged their head right on the door frame, right?
But we have it. It's redundant. We have that in the actual like Hollow Knight's Warrior Chamber and Celestial Vindicator's Warrior Chamber. And like, so we have the chapters, like mega battalions.
Right.
Why do we need the stupid chambers?
Right.
Why? Like, what purpose does that serve?
Yeah, I think it might have been better off if they would have done a smaller point to sink for some less effective additional rules. Maybe not. Here's an item, and here's a command ability, and here's an extra ability here, here, and here. But you have to take all swords, and you have to take an extra unit of this, and one less unit of this. I think while the intention is clear and very fluffy, and I love the intention, I love the concept of it, I just think they just weren't handled right for competitive play.
I'm in total agreement. And maybe we're being unfair. Maybe they didn't want them to be for competitive play. Maybe they were just meant to be sort of super fluffy and for that kind of thing. I suppose that's fine if that was the intention, but it just seems like a missed opportunity, right? Because why not have those things align? Yeah. So an interesting question just got asked in the chat, which I think is worth just a very quick discussion on here as we get toward the end of this, because as I said, we need to wrap up. But the question was, and so Chuck, we'll go to the expert. The question asked of how do Stormcast deal with like enemy forces capable of large, high mortal wound output? What's been your experience with that?
Besides dying, no.
It's a good way to do it.
Honestly, sometimes you have to feed the models. So while I like the concept of running a 20-man Liberator squad, I don't think in practice I ever truly would. It's because I'd rather have 5. I can send them off to die, maybe hold up a unit, maybe count on some poor rules on the opponent, and just hold up those mortal wounds as I can. Truly, I don't have much answer in the way I run my list. I deal with it as I go. Most people will go after my paladins quickly, so that allows my other forces to maneuver and do their job and go after objectives, because people focus on the kill and get buck fever to say. So enough threats everywhere so that the mortal wounds can't really affect you as an army. They might affect one unit, but you can do something with your other units. So that's really it. Have the plan of how to win the game, not kill the opponent.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I'll say that concern is one of the things that kept me from even mentioning anything about the Celestin Prime, right back in our hero discussion, because that guy just rolls over to mortal wounds, and not that many of them, pretty fast, and that's a real problem, especially for a guy like him who shows up late and should be ideally doing a lot. Tom, what about you? Any thoughts on the mortal wound thing?
Oh, that's their weakness. I mean, so that's my real complaint. If I were to move from my Nurgle super tanky, like high mobility teleport list to a Stormcast one, is that like they just have no mortal wound protection. Where I've been having this. I had a conversation earlier in the show with somebody about this. Like they said, well, the Liberator block is the most tankiest unit in the game. And I said, no, it's actually not. I said I would argue that the Chaos Warrior block is. The Chaos Warrior, there's still 2 wounds, same save. They get the reroll 1s to save, and on top of that, they have a 5-up protection against mortal wounds. So it's all the stuff with more for the Chaos Warriors.
Right.
There's just no way to get that protection on Stormcast. I've dug through every single resource. I've dug through everything. It's not going to get it. If you're going mono
outside the, you get an Archmage, but then you're losing all these other fun toys.
Archmage could do it. You could do the non-Huracanum, the Luminarch.
Yeah.
The Luminarch could pull it off. Like there are a number of different ways that you could pull in that ward save. But it's only 6-up then. It's still not the 5-up.
Right.
Where you're getting bait.
Well, not to mention that you're also never going to be able to stack as much as Chaos, because Chaos could end up with a 5-up, a 6-up, and more. Like, so.
Yes. Yeah. Especially as Nurgle. I mean, that is all in the realm of possibility. Yep. So. It's not there.
Pure re-rolling of all saves, right? Like easily, not only sitting on that, but just even in Ren situations still, or whatever, just easily re-rolling all saves, right? That's also another easy thing to get at Chaos.
Yeah, and so what I would say is this. You're not going to get that mortal wound protection.
Right.
The alternative is that you actually get really hard hammery forces. Like you've got to
hammer that thing into the ground before it gets you. Yeah, sure, that's another option. Yes.
Right, like you have tools like that, and that's the difference. Like that's one of the differences with like a Nurgle force versus a Stormcast. Right. Is that like Stormcast, I could run a block of 10 Retributors that could drop in, like a good lightning strike in, and suddenly it's not as tanky of a unit, but guess what? I have something that's really going to put some hurt. I could use long strikes. A battery of long strikes at the back of the table. I could use some like on top of all of that. So we talked about. Let me just point something out with that Vanguard Wing. It has the triggering, like you do 2 damage on a 6-up to hit or base. That's Vanguard, right? Or is that base to the Liberators themselves? No, that's base to the Vanguard. On a 6-up to hit, they do 2 damage. Instead of 1 when they drop. And so you get all the stacking bonuses to win. So you can actually, and then libs get a +1 to hit native on them if they're attacking a multi-wound model.
Yeah, high enough wound model. Yeah.
And so, high up wound. So like suddenly, like your lib block is actually rather offensive because you can have a bunch of great weapon wielders mixed into your super tanky block. So. I would just say that no, you're not going to find mortal wound protection, but the trade-off is that you're actually going to be able to dick punch people.
Sure, just kill it first. Usually the good way. The best defense is a good offense. Mel, the cook on Alice. So, all right. Well, let's close out this then. Chuck, we're gonna have you go alone here. Give us your winner and loser of sort of like command. Give us a command trait you love or an artifact you love or something like that, and ones you hate.
Command I love, Staunch Defender. I've said it over and over again. I always have it. I've also tried Cunning Strategist, which is okay, but I'd rather have that defense all day. My winner on the items, it's, for me, like I said, it's the Spell Shield. It shut down Alariel for a game for me at Adepticon. I know the Mirror Shield is the popular one, but if I'm getting enough defense with my Staunch Defender, I'm usually still okay, and I can heal with a Relictor, as well as the Lantern from the Castellans. Going for the one loser, there's things that just, they might be good in other armies, but my loser, I chose the Sigmarite Pendant simply because I don't like planning for my models to die. It's D6 mortal wounds when your character dies. I think it's not even guaranteed. It might even be on a 4 or more when the character dies. D6 mortal wounds on whatever killed it.
Yeah, it's a bad Tomb King's curse. Yes.
Yeah, you don't want to plan for your models to die, especially like I play very defensively with my list, so I could put that on a hero and he'll probably never use it. And if he does, I'll probably roll a 1.
Yeah, like it's a bad Cetrus curse. Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's I agree. I agree with you on the Mirror Shield thing as well, because I feel like you can get into a Gilding the Lily point of view, right? Whereas you don't want to put too much toward that skew. Yeah. Tom, what about you? Any quick picks before we close out here?
No, I mean, I think that he's hit. Obviously, the Lantern that has them re-rolling 6s to hit.
Yep.
I think that's worth a noting, because some of the most scariest things are depending on rolling high to hit, like Cunning Rucks and stupid Disc Riders, Skyfires. And so what that's doing is that's forcing those re-rolls of those naturally high rolls to potential misses. So you can potentially convert. And for Cunning Rucks, those are exploding attacks if they've been buffed. And so you're negating all of their exploding attacks on the first round. So
yeah, and it should be notable, exactly, in those cases, even where you're not stopping the hit, right? Like if they reroll the 6 and still hit, you still prevented the mortal wound conversion, the extra attack, the whatever, right? All those triggers. And that has a high value because those triggers are usually where the unit is relying to do its real work, right? So Yep. No, I agree. All right, cool. Well, I feel like we gave it that's a good rundown. I mean, certainly we could go on for hours and hours about the Stormcast. This is obviously one of the most well-developed factions, but I feel like we gave it a good once-over of some outliers. Chuck, any final thoughts as we bring it to a close here and sign off?
No, just I mean, for the Stormcast, I think choose how you want to play them. I play defensive, but you can play movement. I think it can fit multiple styles of play. So definitely a good army, easy to get into, very forgiving too. Yep,
I agree. All right, well, we'll say goodbye to Tom in his secret hidden bunker. Thank you very much, Chuck. It was great to finally have you on the show. We're going to have you back again. So now I know when the Elf release comes out, because it should be noted. I saw, like, on your Twitter, I know well that your Twitter account, like your little bio thing says, like, still waiting on High Elves, right? Or something like that. Still waiting on Elves. Yeah. So when the Elves come out, you're just book the slot now. You're back on the show, and you and Tom can have a wonderful Elvish party together. So
look forward to it.
Excellent. For all of you out there, we thank you for watching. As always, with all of this, we hope we gave you some things to think about with the lists. In the end, hey, this is all just our opinion, of course. This should not be taken as dictum or truth in anything other than a fun, entertaining way, and some noise to help you fight the war against the gray. So, for all of you, thank you very much for watching. We always appreciate it. We'll see you next Wednesday.